With our stats considerably increased, we are now going to make our way over to Rito Village and do the second Divine Beast. Well, that was quite the runaround. Although I took a good amount of damage, I really don't have to worry about that since I have just so much in the way of healing. I'm never going to have to worry about that. Now, there is one side quest, arguably the most important side quest, that involves the only shield that... Well, I guess I should amend this a little bit. Not the only shield you're ever going to need, since, case in point, I'm using one right now. And it would be nice to use some for some parry opportunities if they ever come up. But the only shield shield you're ever going to need to worry about or care about. And of course that involves this side quest. This side quest is going to have a high demand of wood. And so the easiest way to do this, rather than using your Master Sword as a glorified woodcutting axe, although technically you could use that. And there's more discussion there about as to the use of the durability system in weapons, but that's for another point. The best thing you can do on your way to Rito Village, here we are at the stable, is to make use of the wood around here. Now, normally you would have to wait for time to pass for a certain amount of things like on the surface. For any of you who didn't know, anything that is not in a chest that is found on the field that can spawn there will respawn with fruit or food. It's usually with time passing, as with the mighty bananas and hardy durians. But that includes the wood around the area as well, and weapons that enemies might have or just lying around, those will all respawn. That's why I will always have that cave with that cache that will always give me a Sword of Duality. This is a pretty darn good two-handed sword, and will always give me a golden bow to worry about. That being said, I'm probably just going to want to switch to this one right now for a little bit later. So what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to cut these out. Is I'm going to, once again, I'm going to save and quit. And when I do, all of the wood will be back at Rito Stable. And I'll be able to blow it up via the method I was doing before. And then just farm the wood there. I'm going to stop at around 120-ish, you know, just to give myself a little bit of breathing room. You need about 100 to 110, I'm not exactly sure the precise amount, bundles of wood for this very important side quest. And then see, as it's funny, I just sort of spawned in on top of it. You can just keep doing this all day if you really want to, and then just, you know, start collecting the wood. It's very important, and trust me, it's very much worth it to just do it now. And of course, as you can see here, we've gone ahead and collected, or farmed, funny enough, bales of wood, enough wood to definitely last us for the quest that we're going to need. And so naturally, we'll just go ahead and proceed on through here to doing the Divine Beast quest. And what I will say about this is, Revali's Gale is broken, if we're being very technical about it, in a game about trying to find a way about, and this is explicitly by the developer's intent, finding a way about exploring different, you know, obstacles, climbing different ridges, etc., and finding your way around places. Revali's Gale does seem, on the surface, to be rather broken and just, you know, breaking this concept in two and almost making it null and void. I would respectfully disagree with that. It's not nearly as powerful as all of that, and honestly gives you a generous reprieve, and it's what's necessary to... Kind of like the fast points. You really needed these fast travel points to make your way around Hyrule. It was just, it would be asinine to have to travel everywhere yourself. That being said, this is something you do have to earn, and I know it's not particularly hard or anything, and even though it does fall under that dominant strategy again, well, what's the first Divine Beast you're going to do? 9 times out of 10, people will say I'm just going straight to the Rito to get Revali's Gale. Yeah, this makes sense, but again, I would argue that it's fine enough. It gives you not a tremendously ludicrous amount of length in an air column to make your way around, and like I said, with the stuff in the rain, it just, it honestly levels out. It really isn't as much of a problem as a lot of reviewers slash, you know, video essayists make it out to be. But I am going to do a few things here in Rito Village. I'm going to get a few pieces of armor, and of course I definitely need to restock on arrows, because this particular Phantom Ganon fight, you can just, you know, whoop him normally with the Master Sword, but after the second half I find it's just easier to just, you know, spam him with bomb arrows, and so that's precisely what we're going to do. Now, something I think that just, again, I do personally, with my own setup with Link, and it just helps more often than not, is to go ahead and equip him with these, this Rito armor. This will give me 2 levels of defense against cold, and the reason I have it is for this. There's only one area in all of Hyrule that you really have to deal with heat, and it's over down here where the Gerudo are. Everywhere else, there are sparses of much more areas of cold, and as you could have seen through, as you can see, or have seen through the speed portion going through that cold area, I was taking a good amount of damage via all the time, even though I was running through it really fast. I was taking an okay amount of damage, and while I'm not worried about my health, the point is that the cold areas are much more dangerous than the hot ones, if nothing else because there's just more of them. Now, I am going into this shrine, but I'm not going to complete it. I need something in this shrine, and it's not the Spirit Orb. What I need from this shrine is something from a chest way back over here. Now, one of the more difficult items to carry in the ancient weapons, just the ones that you can get from the regular, like, statues, are going to be the ancient shafts, but there is another upgrade for our runes that we need, and we need these for that. To upgrade stasis, you need ancient cores. I got an ancient core from the first Divine Beast, I got an ancient core from here, and I'm going to get the last one from Va Meadow, the Divine Beast of the Rito. And speaking of the Rito, again, I fully admit that I have some bias here because Wind Waker is still my most favorite Zelda of all time. And naturally the Rito were introduced there. But I genuinely like the Rito, especially, how do I say this? I like their setup in Wind Waker and how, you know, they're a part of the world. their role within it. Their design, not so much. Their design is truly better here, again, with all of the creatures, even the Gorons, with their expressions. They're all superior here. What I did like about the Rito setup, and what I had talked about before in when we were talking to the Zora, is that they don't have that much involvement as they did in other Zelda games, especially here and now. Their designs have improved, but if they had the kind of, at minimum, the level of depth and involvement that they had in Wind Waker, they would easily be the best. And that's, of course, not to say that all of the species could have actually done with a little bit of more immersion and getting involved and learning about them, etc. But I digress. I already said this before. But just to reinforce that. Medley and Makar were still are some of my favorite characters, definitely my favorite stages, and Zelda's had plenty of different kinds of stages. So now we need to make our way to the range over there. We still have a few minutes of our speed up, and what I like to do is get a little bit of height, so we can just make our way over there. And when I get a little bit of a running angle, just pivot off of that, and then just make our way over here to the fast travel point, because that's what the shrines are pretty much now for us, it's just fast travel points. Because I am going to need the range again for DLC content, but that'll be, of course, when we get there. Like I said before with Sidon, these were just, you know, they come across very, you know, second thought, afterthought sort of things. These, before you do the Divine Beasts, you obviously have to do something to get into the Divine Beasts or approach them because they have natural defenses. And these were all well and good, but at the rate at which they're presented and you go through them, they really seem like more of a hassle, and you'll notice this more and more on replays. It's just something I wish would have been much more involved, but once again, we are still, as I will still argue, preparing to play Breath of the Wild. You might ask yourself already, well, you know, you've quite clearly been playing Breath of the Wild. And I will respectfully argue, have I? You know, in terms of what is really going on here. And I'm not saying that to be argumentative. I'm saying that to truly, you know, depict the idea of depth versus, you know, actual goal in terms of what this kind of game is. Even though it's a Zelda game, you know, there's, like I said before, there's a lot of Zelda things that seem to be very noticeably missing from this installment. And it's something that I feel can really, if not tremendously, benefit the sequel. And I'll actually take that further as something that we expect a little bit more, or not even a little bit more, a lot more. A lot of people were really disappointed that this sort of stuff that I'm hinting on, the species, in terms of their involvement with the story, the depth and lack of memorable side quests dealing with them, all of it was just lacking. Even with the Divine Beasts, you know, they're nothing special. They're hard. They're barely mini dungeons. All of this stuff culminating in what can barely be, you know, described as a Zelda game almost. And I believe I'll link it in the description if you haven't already seen it. Oh, come on, I barely missed that. Perfect. There is the title alone, a review that I'm thinking of. Yeah, the name escapes me at this very moment. But the title alone just goes ahead and expresses the feeling, not enough Zelda, for referring to this game. So, it's very telling that all of these things, thankfully, get 20 bomb arrows for free for a lot of these quests. And, where was I? Oh, yeah. And like I stress again, I really like this game. It's more, you know, focused on different things that we wouldn't, you know, anticipate from a Zelda title. But these were also very necessary. So the heat is definitely on for the developers. They definitely have their work cut out for them, because if we get some more of this, pretty much, this setup, this flow, this game direction in Breath of the Wild 2, I think they're going to get some flack for that. They're going to get some. They're going to get a lot of pushback, and not in a good way. not a very creative way. It's just not what people were expecting or hoping for. Oh, excuse me, wrong one. Now, for this first part, we're just gonna go ahead and use the multi-arrows. I remember to do that this time. This quest is the easiest of them. This fight, I guess I should say. But to that end, it really leans more on the avenue of tedium versus actually excitement. Even the pacing with Sidon's quest had at least had you at least going, or at least it did for me. It felt it was much more impactful on the player. And this was very important because that's the first divine beast they nudge you towards. So you know you got to make those impressions count. Just shy. This one is, yeah, it's a lot of tedium. It's really hard to make your way, you know, horizontally along these wind currents to these 4 very distant points around Vah Medoh. And even though the concept is cool of this aerial divine beast and the spectacle is very impressive, this is, you know, a video game. So the balance here really needs to be, you know, fused with gameplay and storytelling. And this really wasn't it. What might have been, this is just a thought that came to my head, what might have been really cool is if you could sort of, well, obviously there would need to be a little bit more than these 4 points acting as these cannons. In some kind of way to, you know, kind of like, almost like a Star Fox. They have the technology for this. They have the ideology for this. And then occasionally you could go on top of, yeah, this is rather important and very telling. I don't remember his name. Our friend here, our Rito friend here, who's helping us get into Vah Medoh. And then maybe you could, you know, like, you know, fight on his back, something like that, and then, you know, like catch some wind currents and some dynamic action, something more. And I know it seems like it's asking a lot given what we had in scope and all that other stuff, but these are just valid complaints that more than just people than just me have had. Vah Medoh itself, how should I say this? When I rate the Divine Beasts, I would have to say Naboros. Vah Naboros is top, then Vah Medoh, then Vah Rudania, and then Vah Ruta. Vah Naboros is much more involved, is the strongest one of them. Its dynamics fit it much better, the controls of the Divine Beast, and what you have to do puzzle-wise. The only thing, of course, that all of these are lacking is really any combat interface, and it really seems like these are more just places to get across, or to get through, get across, and then just to get your power and go. And that really all ties in with what I keep saying, is that even though we're going to be doing all the Divine Beasts, even when we're done with them, just shy of it, we're still preparing to play Breath of the Wild. Breath of the Wild is exclusively, by designers, you know, intention, an exploration game, and they absolutely succeeded with flying colors with that. Only problem is, and it's a major one, is that it suffered in light of all the other ways. So, oh shoot, I just cut it so short. So, here what I can just add for my gameplay is how I get through Vah Medoh without having to worry too much about... I just missed it! Oh! Yeah, I'll cut to when I get back there. Yeah, so that's what I wanted to do. Just less inputs, get through it, get it done, and get what you need, because the rest of the game is outside of here. And you really didn't say that about Zelda Dungeons. For a lot of them, if not all of them, on purpose, that was, you know, this is where Zelda took place. It was in the dungeons. It didn't even have to be necessarily with the balance of puzzles versus combat. You know, all of that was so great, and Nintendo was so good at designing them to have their own identity. And I know it makes sense for the Divine Beasts to all be designed very similarly in this way. They're all, you know, story-wise connected to the same technology and whatnot. But it really does, again, come across as this was just something they felt like they were more obligated to do, and what we got was okay, but it wasn't okay enough. And it feels really bad to say, because, like I said, this is a phenomenal game. I really like what we got here, but what's really helping it is that that's because this is a first installment. You know, we really can't afford to see this sort of thing again in a sequel. Make it up here. So what I like to do for Vomito is make my way across the wings to the left, over to the right, and loop around again, since that's what you have to do anyway. We'll go ahead and make our way over here. Oh no, I missed it! Go figure, I make the cool shot, but I missed the ladder. The easiest thing to do. Anyway, I digress. So go ahead, make our way towards the wings, and then just start unlocking these terminals. And that's the last ancient core we'll need. Set the bomb through here. Open the way so I can pull up the other part over there. Yeah, these puzzles aren't particularly great for what we got. I mean, one or two of them, if anything, seem more or less traditionally Zelda-worthy, if I could put it that way. But the other ones are just unfortunately lacking. So, yeah, I'm really rather conflicted. Oh, okay, I guess one spawns. Go figure. So I try to get rid of those corrupted spawn points. Just to create more stall heads that waste your time, your stamina, or your weapon's durability.
There are 4.
So I'm really conflicted whether or not I should just go through the motions, because there's nothing too spectacularly different that I do in these, in the dungeons, that would be any particularly different from how you would approach it. Just a few tiny things, and I'm wondering if I shouldn't just speed it up a tiny bit, and then do maybe a post-commentary. I'm going to probably do that for Va Naboris. So just as a heads up, I think it would be much easier commentary-wise and gameplay-wise, so I can stay focused on both.
There are 3.
So one thing I can do here is that they expect you to go on the outskirts of Vomito to make your way down the wings, but of course if you just know that there's an opening over here, you can just cleverly make your way across with the trajectory and just make your way down to the third terminal down here.
There are 2.
You know, so we just make our way through here and then just keep doing as I said. You just go through the motions. Then our fourth terminal, and of course we just go around, do what we need to do, get the fifth terminal, and then we're at the boss.
Just I want you to clap to it.
And as always, as we approach the boss fight, go ahead and make sure all the proper equipment is in there. We have our bomb arrows with our multi-shot bow. We have the Master Sword because it's rank 60. And for food, we'll go ahead and increase our strength because this just makes sense. And we'll go ahead and start the fight.
His aim is dead on.
So typically what you'll do is, you know, just shoot him in the eye to down him and then beat him up with the Master Sword. What is unfortunate is that he will summon these tornadoes. Really? You're starting to disappear already. He'll start to summon these tornadoes on top of you, and their hitboxes are lousy. So I'll just make it, you know, line him up here. And he's one shot away. That's fine.
Watch your blind spot.
It really just depends on this particular Windblade Ganon is just more aggravating depending on how much he decides he wants to teleport and when he wants to go up in the air or not. So there's our Lionel bow, but that's fine because we have 26 attack power over here. And there's the wind shot, but I don't care because I have so much health that I really don't need to worry about that. And we'll just finish him off here, it looks like. So yeah, that's a pretty clear cut. The Divine Beast, the fight, all of it. Pretty much why you can see, you know, why we feel that there's many highlighted Zelda stuff lacking from Breath of the Wild. But that also echoes as to why bother, you know, making the playthrough or having it set up the way I do like this. You know, if the preparation through the old Zelda stuff, which doesn't, you know, hold up to standard, why bother recording it and just, you know, cut to where all the preparation is done? Well, because that's the thing. You know, it's not atypical for picking up a Zelda game to think like this. And so I just wanted to put my hero's path, if you will, out there for record to give it ease of transition into getting ready to play this game without how they designed it and what will be best for you. Because the reward for the DLC is something that if you have gone through the whole game initially, the DLC content itself and the reward for doing the DLC content is really empty and worthless. So yeah, that's terrible. And so, ironically, we get the only hero weapon that is worthwhile of the bunch. And get it from the champion who everybody would rather forget. The Golden Eagle Bow. You can always get it back. You just come here. There's always going to be a bow here. He'll let you take it. It's fine. You just turn in some wood and a diamond and you can get the Golden Eagle Bow, which is considerably stronger than the Lionel Bow that we lost. That being said, now that we are done here, we're going to go ahead and we're going to do a refresh on our cooking material because enough time has passed. And then we're going to actually end up doing a few little fights in preparation for making our way to, once again, the next Divine Beast. We're just get these out of the way because you kind of need to. And just get the power-ups that you'll need to make actually playing Breath of the Wild, you know, more of a thing. So we'll pick up the next part from here. And I do hope you guys enjoy this. I am going to go ahead and do that post-commentary thing with the Divine Beasts from here on in. And I hope to see you again.